Hey, everybody, welcome. And I've been instructed to give you the best or worst advice I've ever been given. I will stay with the best because I'm a positive guy. And that was given to me by Jimmy Gallahue, oh my goodness, in 1988 or so. And Jimmy was a kind of a wiseacre sales guy, but also the tops of the trees. He was always one of the top performers. And so I would train. He kind of mentored me a little bit. This was in the food business, so selling food to restaurants and hotels. And although he was a wise guy, you put him in front of a client, a chef, a hotel manager, or restaurant manager, he transformed, and he was extremely professional. So I learned a lot from him. But the biggest tip I got from him was, Neil, here's the one thing I'd like you to walk away with. And that is whenever anything goes wrong, start here. What was my role in this? How could I have done better? This does a lot of things for you. One, you'd be less likely to make the mistake again. And number two, it diffuses the situation and you can come to a conclusion. So there it is, folks. That's the number one tip I got for you.
That's great advice, Neil Rogers. Great book, too. Bar Tips. Super stuff, right? So you said that was in the 80s. And where were you career-wise, Neil? Were you mid-career?
Oh, that was really that was kind of my second job. The first one was I went to New York, and one of the actually probably the best sales advice I could give somebody is that sell something that can sell, that has a market, right? So make sure that there's a market. Make sure there's a market before. So I was selling athletic footwear that nobody wanted in New York City. So it was a long year. But then I came back to the Boston area, and because I'm from the area, as well, your audience can probably tell by now, I got into the food business, selling to all the places that I used to work at, or people that I knew, and the like. So yes, that was really my first gig, and that was and I was still working the bar at that point. So actually, I may be mistaken in the dates. It was probably 86, because we got married in 87. And then I left shortly thereafter. But it was one of those jobs, first sales job, where you're making $100 a week, and I was making 600 on the bar on the weekend, so it kept me afloat. So yeah. So that's where I was. I was making the transition to real life.
There you go. Yeah, really good advice there too. From sell something that actually sells, and to look at yourself when you make mistakes. I mean, those are obvious things, but I think a lot of people miss them. And there are a lot of the things that are inside this book, which I really love. Really easy stuff, really easy to comprehend. So let's talk a little bit about your bar career, because sure. I tended bar as well. My mom tended bar. That's how I learned how to play pinball, Neil, because mom tended bar. Yep, and she'd put a dime in, and then she'd walk away because she had to tend bar. So I'd be a little squirt getting to play pinball. So where did you tend bar? Tell me about your bar.
So I didn't stumble into it, but I was kind of, as you probably read, rudderless, didn't know where I was going. And I graduated high school at 17, and was still working in the hospitality business, flamed out at school. Did fine the first semester, and the second semester I just lost complete interest. I didn't go. I was B student in the first semester, so nothing off the charts, but passing, right? And but all the while I stayed in the hospitality business doing various jobs, and then I got behind the bar as a barback. So it was really backbreaking work back then, because it was all bottled beer. There was one tap beer, so there was no just like changing the kegs. It was bringing out cases of bottled beer and stocking them. But then I started watching the bartenders, and I went, "Geez, that looks cool. I want to do that." And believe me, that was the only criteria I had for being a bartender. It's like, that looks cool. I'd like to try that. So that's where my head was at. So I went, and me and a buddy of mine that worked together as barbacks, we kind of started doing some private parties. As we knew enough, we watched enough, and it wasn't as complex as it is today. You might get an old fashioned or a rusty nail or but it was basic vodka. Vodka, it was a lot of scotch, a lot of ryes. So rye and water, Manhattans, those types of things, martinis. So, but anyways, it was I knew a guy that was that he was going to be the manager at a local bar in this place called White Horse Beach in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And the bar is called the Full Sail. So I set my sights on that. My self-esteem was a little low after flaming out of school, and I'm really, floundering, not really, still living at home, all that stuff. And so I went down. I asked him. I said, "Hey, I'd be interested in a job." And he said, "Well, they're all taken, but I could put you on the door for 5 nights a week." So now I'm on the door checking IDs, back getting ice, changing things out, getting the trash out. So the bar backing stuff. When just then the day bartender says, "I don't want the job." So I took the day job. And it really became a watershed moment, an aha as well, that when I went and started serving people, and even from the first drink, is which I mentioned in the book, I kind of enjoyed the feedback I got right away from servicing someone. I asked them what they want. I did all the greetings. I put the cocktail napkin down. I did the simple things. And I just loved that feedback I got right away. And I said, and after feeling kind of low, boy, this feels pretty good. Maybe this is the direction for me. And then I realized at some point in time that I knew it wasn't going to be my life's work. Not that I think it's noble, and for others it's great. And I always kick around the idea of still doing some functions just for fun. And so I keep threatening to do it, actually. And so I really from there parlayed. People would say, trying to figure out what I want to do. People would say, with your interpersonal skills, Neil, you'd probably be pretty good at sales. All right, so let's give that a go. Right. So now we're still. So and then I went back to school. Got to get that. Still got to get that degree. But there was a difference now. I had a purpose. I had a vision. I knew what I wanted. And I created my little, in today's parlance, my little algorithm of success for being a good student. And there was, again, it's all simple formula for your audience out there. Neil did not split the atom in bar tips. I mean, this is all just simple stuff, reminding us of the things that maybe we should do, but the little things strung together can be significant. And so, I realized that, do you know that teachers like you to show up? They like you to listen. They like you to take notes. They like you to do the extra work. They'd appreciate it if you stopped by and talked to them. Did you participate in class? All these things, right? Kind of sounds like sales, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, not only that, but so does bartending, right? I mean, a lot of that stuff, being
Sure.
behind the bar, we have to sell ourselves first, and that's much like sales. So with that, let's dive into the book here, Neil. You got a lot of
Sure.
great stuff in here. One of the chapters that you talk about is all about teamwork, and I really like that because I think a lot of people think that sales is a lone wolf game, but sales, I would argue, is one of the best team sports there is if you do it right. So
Sure.
what have you found, Neil, and how did that relate to your time in the bar?
So in different bars, it's different things because the volume and the type of places. But I'll speak specifically about a place called Tia's, TIAS in Boston. Tia's was a very successful restaurant bar, but it really, I mean, they love selling the food, but in the end, it was a high end, everybody to be seen type bar in Boston. It was right at the Long Wharf, right on the outside of the Long Wharf Marriott, not affiliated, just had the space. And so all the financial district people would come down and all that. So it was busy. I mean, it was extremely busy. So they actually only let you work 4 shifts because they felt people would burn out. So I worked all the busy shifts. I worked Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night. Believe it or not, Saturday night wasn't as busy as it was. Not a real busy night. It was an okay night. But in terms of like the volume and how they're coming at you, people are coming out of work. They're coming at you. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock. I mean, you get on the bar 4:30, 5 o'clock. You're off to the races till it's over. So you have to have a team with you. That includes the barbacks. So we always had, well, we started out, it was kind of crazy because they never knew. I mean, they had an inkling that it was going to be busy. I mean, they organized the place to be rock solid. And if and you did share your tended bar when you didn't have to move for barely a thing. But occasionally you needed a strawberry daiquiri that was 10 feet away. Well, if the guy behind you isn't doing anything, hey, can you grab me a strawberry daiquiri? Boom, he makes the strawberry daiquiri. How about a Beck's Light? Boom, he gets the Beck's Light and he brings it up. Sometimes you don't even ask; they hear it, and next thing you know, it's in your hand, like they're passing the baton on a relay, right? and so and that becomes a cherished relationship. Now we don't all have to be best friends. We happen to all be friendly. All got along, and we all would party afterwards or go elsewhere. And I married a food waitress, and 37 years later, here we are, and we're partners in life and in business and all that. And so, but and so you have to be you have to be cognizant of your team. So we talk about a lot of things in the book about, and then one that I'll talk about particularly is time management, right? So if you show up late, you're behind the eight ball. Your team is hurt, right? They had to cover for you. They had to do your prep work. So you get back there, and so now it's like, you're apologizing, sorry, I'm late. So if it becomes chronic, it's an issue, right? But if everybody deserves some grace, right? So it's important to foster that, and then even the people that were out front, the waitresses and the other folks, if you needed something, much like you would give to them, they would help you. Hey, listen, can you grab me this? Can you do that for me? So just simple things. So it's all about, again, interpersonal relationships, right? So you develop relationships with your teammates, that the people that are working directly with you, but then the indirects, the doorman, the waitress, the wait staff that's out front, you got to keep that. You got to have that. You got to have good relationships there. And and so I mean, we joke a lot of times because we still hang around with a lot of friends from back then that worked, and let's just say I was a little bit more obnoxious than most. So it was like, so we joke about that a little bit. So yeah, so I always say, I talk about, I married my wife who was getting her master's in math at Boston University, and I'm floundering through school at almost 25 years old. It's like, so I always say, how does the self-absorbed, obnoxious, going nowhere bartender hook up with this? It's like, as they say, out kicking your coverage. So
yeah.
But yeah, but look at the team we've made over the years. We have a special needs child. We've created a foundation for special needs education. We created the first of its kind special needs classroom at a community college, well, here in New Hampshire, anyways. And we have other things that we do. So Bar Tips is not necessarily just for business. As a matter of fact, I would suggest that the greatest compliment I've got to this day is a friend of mine last summer said, I've read your book. I really liked it. Everybody likes the simplicity of it, the easy read of it, the big font. I mean, I wrote a book I could read, is what I'm saying, right? But he says to me, Neil, I really enjoyed it. I loved it, and I thought it was great. And he looks at me and goes, is that how you did the other stuff too? I said, yeah, same formula. Just
Awesome.
Same formula. Be positive, be proactive, get after it, be on time, be organized, be friendly. So, yeah.
Yeah. All simple stuff, all stuff that we need to know here. So let's talk about one of your chapters here, about knowledge is power. You got in chapter 12 here as we're looking at the book, right? Knowledge is power. So let's talk a little bit about that. You said Thomas Jefferson, he's probably first person quoted with that, but let's quote you a little bit, Neil. What does that mean to you? Knowledge is power. And how did you implement that? Tell me a little story.
Well, you certainly need to know your product or what you're trying to sell, at least to a degree where you might have that degree where you go, we need to bring the engineers in now, or whatever. It doesn't really happen a lot in the businesses I have been in, but the sheer volume of types of products, like in the food business, I had a catalog this thick of products. So it was virtually impossible. So it's how do you then, so you know what you know, don't BS, right? Don't give them an answer that's incorrect just because you don't want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. Be mature and say, you know something? That one's a tough one for me. I need to do some research on that. Can you hang on? I'll get the answer for you. And obviously that would be more obscure than not. We don't want that to be the everyday deal. You want to know the basics of your product line, your services, or whatnot. But there's going to be a stuff. But just don't BS them, right? And then be sure to get that information back in a timely fashion. So, but most importantly of all this, don't just spew your product knowledge out. It's way more. Nobody wants to listen to all the features and benefits of your product because you really haven't discovered what you. So have you had? I mean, if you had the conversation of what you have can be of service to this person, I mean, for us, and most of the business I've been in, I can, I walked in when I was in the sporting goods business. I used to walk into sporting goods stores, so they could use my stuff. Now it's up to me. How does it fit into their mix? I'm looking at their wall. Do my shoes fit in their wall? Do they have a $39.9 running shoe? Because that was a big thing for us. Do they have a $49.9 running shoe, leather, that has got widths? Now I can put that in. Do they have a beginner technical running shoe at $60? Well, we've got a nice little technical running shoe. Now I got three SKUs that I believe could be a benefit for them. Now, how do I then work that into their wall, into their mix and whatnot? And so it's the product knowledge. It's where it fits. Does it work for them? Right? Is it going to be profitable? So in that case, is it going to be profitable? Are they going to be able to sell it? Is it sellable to their customers? Do you have a technical running? You definitely have somebody that comes in looking for a walking shoe at $40. I know that. Probably one that comes in looking at $50. Now, this, by the way, is 30 years ago. I don't know what the prices would be now. probably twice that. So
yeah,
but
cool.
But yeah, so I think that's that. So know it. What you don't know, don't BS. Get the information back in a timely fashion. And in the end, make sure it's for them and it works for them. Because you don't want to, all the product knowledge in the world and jamming something down somebody's throat. It's not going to develop a relationship.
Yeah. If there's no
walk
fit,
in the next,
relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, you walk in the next time and your stuff isn't selling. Oh boy, did we go the wrong route here? I remember when I was in the also part of the sporting goods business. I was in the licensed product business. So we got so good at predicting college. So this is when colleges were real. This really was the beginning of the caps, the big cap play, and it was a line called The Game. And they had a little G on the side of their hat, and it was the only hat they had was at the beginning was white, and it was a bar cap, 3 bars, simple design. So it would be UMass, University of Massachusetts, and it would be in their colors. And ironically enough, the kids knew what to do with them. So the kids loved the cap, and then what they would do is they'd wear it in the shower, and they get it to fit their head. And then they liked the rough edges of it, so they liked the weird look. So guess what happened? They started producing hats that looked like that out of the gate. So it was like this. So, anyways, back to the original point. Used to be, we would want, you go in, you say, listen, I'm in, they would want that. That was a line they wanted. That people wanted that line. So it was, there wasn't as tough a sell, right? Because they wanted the hats. They're not sure they wanted the apparel and all that, but they wanted the hats. So, but they would also say, we don't really know what we're doing. Okay, I can put the mix together for you. Like you wouldn't believe that, University of South Carolina would sell in Maine, but it does. Or Notre Dame sold everywhere. So we could put together. I said, give me the wall that you want to use, and we'll help you with the shelving and all that, and then we'll put it in. We won't put it in for you, but we'll ship it in, and you can lay them out, and you'll be and it was very successful. So we just took out the knowledge. So it goes. Sometimes we go on just the product. It's how does it fit in the market?
Yeah, lots of different ways to use knowledge for sure. Product fit, what the product does, how it helps, problems it solves, all sorts of good stuff there. So let's talk a little bit about situational awareness, because I think that plays into your last point there, Neil. Because I think a lot of salespeople, they're not able to pivot and move on the fly. So let's give them some tips on how they can be more situationally aware.
Well, okay, so let's go back to the bar business, say where the training came from, right? And so I would suggest, by the way, to me, take a step. I would suggest to any of your young audience, work in a retail operation or in a restaurant, part-time, full-time, whatever. You will encounter so many situations. I got a great story I just heard yesterday on that. I'll circle back on. But what would happen is that you would get to know, just by virtue of repetition, who's the leader. So a group comes in, who's the leader? You pick them out. You say, okay, now I can focus on the leader. You know why? He or she is the one that's going to be ordering the drinks, circling the wagons, deciding whether or not they're going to stay, right? Should there be a problem arise, he or she is the one I speak to, or send the doorman for, or the manager. Hey, talk to this one. She's running the show. And then so same thing. You walk into a boardroom. Who's interested in what you're saying? Are you scanning the room, right? Who's the leader in the room? Who's the decision maker? Do you know that? Did you do any research walking in? I mean, for sure that would be the greatest thing. And if you knew of anybody in the building, you did some reconnaissance and all that type of intelligence is a great way to do it. But yeah, and then you have to be, and then if you're losing them, tighten it up. Ask questions, engage. The best thing to do in any of those situations, I think, is listen to old Dale. Let him talk. No, I will tell you,
Dale Carnegie, right?
Of course.
Okay, just making sure. So not everybody's aware. So Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the classics of all time, not just our time. Oh, there you go.
It's always never. It's never far.
Nice.
It's never
nice.
far.
I think I have a leather bound one.
I'm sure you do.
So yeah, that's a great book, man. That's a great book.
I mean, 1930-ish, 9 or whatever it was. Him and Napoleon Hill and all these guys that have had. I mean, these concepts have been around for, well, at least till that time, and probably thousands of years before. Who influenced? So I was thinking. So you've got Carnegie, you've got Hill, you've got Zig Ziglar, you got all these guys, and then you get Jim Rohn. So Jim Rohn was probably influenced by who? Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, right? Yeah. And then he influenced who? Tony Robbins.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I think that's a good lesson for folks that are listening here, is go back to the basics. And that's a lot of what your book is about, right? I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, but new ways of looking at it. And Bar Tips offers a lot of those new ways to do that. A lot of ways to look at kind of simple stuff, simple ways to do that. So Neil, give us one more tip, one more way. You said if people want to get started on the journey, you mentioned working in hospitality or in retail, but give us one mindset tip that we maybe need to shift so that we can be ready to work those jobs.
Oh, goodness me. You need, so every day. So these are the things. Now, whether or not I would have listened, I'm not sure, but these are the things, that I wish somebody had approached me on, 40 years ago. And also, although some of them I did kind of innately, which it's kind of strange, but because we do look at all these things that we've learned over the last, certainly over the last, in terms of this, what I'm about to speak about now, in the last 15 years, really has to do with being mindful. And so we have one of the chapters in the book is called Positive Activity. So building business through positive activity. Positive activity is a whole separate, and when I mentioned it to you earlier, the whole separate program that my wife and I do. But basically, it stems from, you know, the ditty that I put together to describe positive activity. It's the practice of getting your mindset in a place of positivity, which leads you to open-minded, divergent thinking, solution providing, creativity. You no longer see problems. You only see solutions. So if you're mired in the muck on some problem, whatnot, get your mind right. Take a step back, right? And as a high-strung Irish guy, this was a tough lesson to learn over the years, but I am there now. And even though I still, it's, nobody bats 1,000. I still have my moments where it's like, oh my goodness, we ever gonna right this ship and whatnot? But then I go back and I do my three things I appreciate every day. I write something that was a recall of something great that happened over the last 24 hours. I do some sort of random act of kindness with a reach out, someone who is sick, has lost a family member, whatever that may be. And then I do my I am statements, and I meditate. So, it's, and for anybody out there that saying, oh, there's no way I can meditate. Believe me, if Neil Rogers can meditate, you can meditate. And I actually do TM, which is 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. Wow. And I would never have predicted that. So I think, and by the way, you try to do all that as much as you can. Again, I call it a practice, not a perfect, right? You're trying to get all that in before you open up your email or you look at a text. Don't let it sway you, because we control 90% of our own happiness. 10% is by the car we drive, the money we make, where we live, the beach house we have, and all that. The other stuff is just having a great conversation with Phil, right? A warm cup of coffee, a great workout. Oh, by the way, that's the other thing. Move your body in some form or fashion. You don't have to go to the gym, whatnot. Go out and walk for 20 minutes. Stand up, So that would be something. If I had known that years ago and was able to, even as successful as I've been in my lane, it would have been better. Would have been even better.
Yeah, for sure. Well, lots of great stuff there. Listen to Neil. He's got simple, impactful stuff that can help you. If you want to get more of his work, get a copy of Bar Tips, go to positiveactivity.net, just like it sounds, positiveactivity.net. Bar Tips is so good. I've got 2 copies. It's a great book, Neil. Congratulations. I wish you all the best. And thanks for spending a little time with me today, sharing some great insight. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Phil. It's been great. Enjoyed it.